Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB Zack Brown. A lot of exciting action and racing throughout the week and weekend, especially in NASCAR. But first, before we get into all of that, as always, this episode is brought to you by W Energy. Go to w.gg, use promo code ZBHP, get 10% off your order. Summer's coming up. You want to stay hydrated? They got lots of hydration stuff for you. They also have a bunch of stuff for energy. Get you through the summer and get your day going. W.gg, promo code ZBHP. Let's get on with it. Well, before we get into the topic of everybody's mind right now, the crazy finish in NASCAR, we're going to start off with dirt racing, and then we'll get into that and a bunch of thoughts that I have about all that. Let's talk about the All-Stars at Jacksonville. And then at Wilmot, back-to-back nights. Of course, my dad's pick, Schoenberg wins at Jacksonville. Small, close racing throughout the night, small track, and who was able to run that bottom and stick with it and get through the lap traffic. It's a topic of the year, is getting through that lap traffic, and Schoenberg is able to do that and pick up the win at Jacksonville. And the next night was at Wilmot. And once again, my dad was right from this previous episode on his pick. Sunshine Tyler Courtney gets it done. He's able to run around the outside, was battling up through the night. It's another small track, so once it started slicking up, Courtney was able to make some moves and take the lead and get the win at Wilmot. Tyler Courtney's having a heck of a season, and I definitely expect him to continue his success throughout the year. All right, let's talk about Outlaws now. They kicked off the week on Wednesday at Lincoln Speedway. There was their first of scheduled 3 nights of racing against the PA Posse. Well, after Brent Marks was dominating the entire race at Lincoln Speedway, Anthony Macri's car came to life about halfway through and started making some progress, passing cars and catching up to Brent Marks. Nobody thought it was actually going to happen. White flag comes out. Macri gets past Marks for the win off the final turn with as close as you can call a photo finish in dirt racing as you can. So, what a race for the posse on that night. With Macri and Marks coming with the top 2 finishes. Heck of a race. Was expecting a lot going into the week with that kicking off the Outlaws versus Posse. Going into Friday night, the first night at Williams Grove, race for the Morgan Cup. Well, this was very anticlimactic compared to Lincoln Speedway on Wednesday. Brad Sweet draws number 1 for the dash and ends up winning the dash and getting the pole for the feature. Not a whole lot of passing in during the race. Not a lot of the track wasn't really coming in until later in the race, which is very general what happens on the first night of these races at Williams Grove. Sweet leads every lap. And the battle is really for second between Marks, Rico, and Schatz. Brent Marks gets second, and Donnie Schatz ended up third. So that's the only one I had to pick that was slightly better than my dad's, as Lance DeWeese finished 7th. Well, all eyes were pointing for Saturday for the Morgan Cup. Everybody's waking up, had their breakfast, had their cup of coffee. They were ready to go. Mother Nature said no. So, unfortunately, the Morgan Cup was canceled due to poor weather conditions. So the posse was not able to take over that night and make a statement against the Outlaws, unfortunately. So the Outlaws come away with the only race win at Williams Grove. All right. Let's get into IndyCar, then into NASCAR. I'll be honest, I did not really know that IndyCar was racing their Indy Grand Prix on Saturday, so was not able to catch it. Again, with an IndyCar, it's something that's not really advertised everywhere, and you don't really know when this stuff's happening. Unless you're watching Fox all day long, you're not going to know when IndyCar's racing. You're not seeing a bunch of stuff on Facebook and not a bunch of advertisement for it. Well, Alex Palou, who was my pick in previous weeks, of course now he comes through and gets the win, which you're obviously going to have some confidence going into the Indy 500 anytime you can win at Indianapolis. But as we were talking before, not a whole lot of correlation between that and the Indianapolis 500. Yeah, it's a good little warm-up and at least be in the same area and the same time zone. And it's obviously the same racetrack as the Indianapolis 500, but it's a road course as compared to the Crown Jewel event. But Alex Palou's got some momentum going into that, so that will definitely play a factor in my opinion, and gets the crew and the driver mentally prepared for the Indianapolis 500. So congrats to Alex Palou. 5 races with IndyCar, 5 different winners this year. So will we see a different one at Indy for the Indy 500? We'll see. All right, let's get into NASCAR. Start off with the trucks. I was able to catch some of this race. Not everything. Bits and pieces when I tuned in. Each time I tuned in, it wasn't always a caution, so that was definitely a positive as compared to Kansas when there were tons of cautions. A lot less cautions at Darlington, and surprising because Darlington's such a unique track. You'd expect a lot more cautions earlier on. There were some later on, just younger drivers battling for fourth position and trying to get up there for the win, making mistakes. It happens. But it goes to a second overtime. We thought it was going to possibly be a third overtime. But Christian Eckes wins after taking the white flag in the second overtime. As soon as he took the white, caution came out. So Eckes takes the win in the trucks at Darlington with a little bit of luck on his side with the caution coming out at the end. But sometimes you got to get lucky in this sport, and he was able to avoid a bunch of wrecks and be there where it counted. Big race that was very exciting was Xfinity on Saturday. It was really the Larson and John Hunter Nemechek show the entire race. John Hunter assumed the lead after the second stage with a photo finish over Larson, and Larson actually was speeding on pit road for the going into the final stage. And Larson was beating himself up about that. He knows better. He's a better driver than that in his own mind. So he's going to race hard. He restarted 30th, and within about 20 laps, he was in the top 10. He was driving the living shit out of that thing, and he was coming. And he lucked out with some cautions later on, was able to get on the same pit cycle as everybody else, and he kept driving and driving it. Comes down to the final lap. John Hunter leads. Larson following closely behind. Larson takes the high line, drops down, gets in the inside of John Hunter, and starts making the pass, coming off of turn 2, going into turn 3. Going to turn 3, Larson dives down low, slides up, and I'm going to say a slide job. I know it's not exactly a slide job, but it's you can qualify his stuff as slide jobs in asphalt. In front of John Hunter Nemechek. And John Hunter gets in the back of him. They bump and bang. Nothing too dirty. Larson comes off of turn 4. He actually bangs against the wall. Car bounces off the wall into John Hunter, sends John Hunter into the inside fence. And Larson gets the win at Darlington, the Xfinity race. His first ever win at Darlington in any of the series, so he was very pumped up about that. Nothing dirty. It was obviously hard racing and can't really control what a car does after it bounces off a wall. So a lot of people were saying it was a dirty move by Larson. Absolutely was not. And you could just watch the race and use common sense. It clearly wasn't. Even John Hunter was like, that was some good, hard-ass racing. It was a lot of fun. So it's exciting seeing Larson occasionally get in there and get in the mix with the Xfinity races and put on a good show for the fans there. All right. What everybody has been waiting for. Obviously, everybody knows that I'm a Larson fan, so I am going to be very passionate about this next topic. The Cup Series, Goodyear 400 at Darlington. Throwback race. There's a lot happened. Early on, looked like Martin Truex Jr. was the one to beat. And he was just whoever had the clean air was able to pull away for a while. And Truex had some errors and fell back a little bit. And everybody got caught up in wrecks towards the end. There's tons of wrecks. A lot of people running hard. But we're going to fast forward all the way to the end. What everybody has been discussing. Once again, it's Chastain involved in a critical wreck at a critical point of a race. Now, I think it's been pretty much every week this year that he's been involved in some sort of major collision, drastically changed the outcome of these races. First thing I want to point out was the one restart where Larson was the control car. Chastain beat him to the line, was clearly in front of him going into the turn. And then caution and crashes ensued behind them. Chastain had the lead over Larson. Now, maybe I have not familiarized myself enough with the rule, but from what I understand, that if you are not the control car, you cannot beat the leader to the start-finish line, especially by half a car length, which Chastain had. This leads to a final restart, as Chastain is the control car. Chastain and Larson have been racing hard all day. Nothing really dirty, beating, banging, whatever, side by side. It's going to happen. It's Darlington. Not a whole lot of lanes to work with. But here's where everybody is discussing everything about this race. So Chastain takes the bottom to be control car. Larson is the outside. I actually thought Larson would go behind Chastain to try to maybe even bump him out of the way, as he knows they were racing hard side by side, door to door, the previous restart and a lot of restarts beforehand. They get started. They're side by side going into one. Chastain's full throttle, sends it in. He says he got tight. Runs up the racetrack. His right rear is hooked by Larson as he comes up the track and wrecks them and takes them both out. And then inevitably, William Byron assumes the lead, and he was faster than Harvick for that final restart. He had a pretty fast car anyways, and Byron gets the win there. So good on Byron, good on Hendrick Motorsports getting that win. First time in 11 years they won at Darlington, so that was pretty cool, and it meant a lot for Byron with his grandpa passing away this past week. Thoughts and prayers to his family. I know this was very emotional for them, very cool to see. But we're going to talk about that Larson and Chastain for a minute. And yeah, I'm probably biased. Yeah, I might get a little heat from saying some things, but I'm just calling it like I see it. And it's very common sense. There's a common denominator every single freaking week where it's Chastain. Whether it's his fault, he acts like it's his fault. He acts like, oh, I got tight. And you can't use the same fucking excuse every damn week. It's getting a little ridiculous. Oh, I'm getting tight off. You know what? Learn how to fucking drive it then. Like, you could have been door to door with Larson and banged him against him like that. But you send it up there and you get tight and you're clearly 3/4 of the way ahead of Larson. You still run up the track. Back off for a quick second. Let it hook down to the bottom. And then go door to door and drive it in on 4. Wouldn't have had a problem with that. I don't care if you're going to bang each other like side by side. But when you know what the car's going to do when you're running in a line like that, fucking idiotic. And it's every damn week. Larson's not going to say anything about it. Cliff Daniels, sure as hell, he's definitely saying stuff about it. He's basically saying Chastain doesn't need to be with Chevy. Chevy's made a mistake having Chastain as a driver for them. I don't really know if I agree with that, but I mean, Cliff Daniels has every right to be pissed off right now. I would be too. I know Larson is, but Larson's a true champion, as I've always said. He's not going to bitch and moan about this shit happening. He's going to say something along the lines of, I had the fastest car again and came away short. I mean, this is, 2-3 wins that have been taken out from Chastain just himself, or at least decent finishes. It's getting fucking ridiculous, and people are fed the fuck up with it. I mean, I'm all about good, hard racing. Don't get me wrong. But it's getting to the point where it's very frustrating to see the same damn guy take out potential race winners every single week because he doesn't know when to lift and when to drive aggressively or too aggressively. He can bump and run. That's different. You can bang against the door. That's different. But blatantly sending it in as hard as you can, fucking video gaming it every damn time. This ain't iRacing, bro. Like, come on. You both could have been fighting for the finish. You had the two best cars. You could have raced those last few laps, 5-6 laps, side by side, had a lot of fun with. That's what John Hunter and Larson were doing. It came down to the last lap. Beating and banging, if you do it like what Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven did all those years ago, that's fine. Fuck it. That's different. But just utter disregard of other people's safety, other people's places on the track. I mean, I don't know what these drivers can do. It's the same fucking guy. And people are comparing like Chastain at this point to what Joey Logano was earlier on in his career, and I think it's completely different. I mean, it is so often now that it's happening. It's insane. I can't even fathom how much I'm just very obviously pissed off about it. And I'm not directly affiliated with any of these teams, but I'm just calling as I see it. Fuck, he could have wrecked Kyle Busch. He could have wrecked anybody. He could have, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, last week he gets in with Noah because he got tight off a corner. How many times you going to be fucking tight? Figure out how to loosen the car up, I guess. If that's the excuse you're going to make every single fucking time. Come on, man. Again, that's my rant for that. It was pretty good race, clean race the entire time. I love Darlington. It was awesome there to see the crowd. Awesome to have Throwback weekend. Some of the guest announcers were better than the others. Loved seeing Cousin Carl up there in the booth. Hopefully NASCAR can bring him back for a lot more. I think he did a fantastic job. So there's a lot of good things about that weekend. I don't think it should be Mother's Day weekend. I think that should be an off weekend for the drivers to spend time with their moms and like they've had in the past, and make the Throwback weekend Father's Day weekend. I think that'd be pretty badass. But that's pretty much my rant for all this. A lot of racing coming up this week. We've got, obviously, Outlaws, All-Stars, I believe, are racing this week. NHRA is back in Chi-Town. The big race coming up this week is the All-Star race return to North Wilkesboro Speedway. How fucking awesome is that to say? So cannot wait for that. Cannot wait to see these cars on that track. See how they handle. See how these drivers are able to figure everything out with a blank slate for everybody. For $1 million, no points. Let's go. It's going to be awesome. Tune in later this week. We'll have another edition of Crew Chief Corner with my dad. And get ready because we got something big planned here in a couple weeks on Memorial Day Sunday. So might have a big episode coming out that day. May or may not be a live episode. So be sure to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow on all social media platforms. Go ahead and check everything out on any podcast platform you can. We'll see you guys at Crew Chief Corner, and I hope you have a good one.